Rated mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey guys, check out my new book, which will be available in only exclusive on the Amazon Kindle app. Can America Survive After Biden? Will be available February 20th, 2022, guys. Check it out on Amazon Kindle app. Like I said, will be available on February 20th, guys. It's a great book, selling for $4.99, keeping it low for everybody to afford this truthful yet positive information that every American needs to learn and know. Like I said, guys, head over to Amazon Kindle on February 20th to pick up your copy of Can America Survive After Biden? Broadcasting from the Big Peach of Atlanta, Georgia. A show unfiltered, unscripted, raw. The Patriot Angle Podcast. Alrighty, guys, welcome to another Unfiltered with Michael Gardner, the Patriot Angle Podcast. Joining us today is Jerry from U.S. Freedom Fighters. Welcome, Jerry. Welcome back to the show.
Michael, thanks for having me. Always honored to be a part of the Patriot Angle Podcast.
It's always an honor to have you or Brad or one of you guys on the show because, this is family, Jerry, and no matter, blood or no blood, we're all one big family, right?
Absolutely, and we consider the Patriot Angle a great help in helping us get the word out about who we are, and we just cherish the relationship we have with the Patriot Angle.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Before we get into the podcast here, I don't know if you caught yesterday's podcast. Had a good member of U.S. Freedom Fighters on the podcast yesterday, Jimmy Dev, joining us once again. Basically, wanting to come back on the show. Got into a little bit of the recap from the Cincinnati Bengals and the LA Rams Super Bowl matchup this past Sunday. Talked a little bit of the political angles with the Super Bowl, of the cancel culture, and then we got into what a lot of people don't understand is the Rooney Rule. Even Jimmy was like, "What are you talking about, Mike? The Rooney Rule?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was passed in 2002, where they actually have to allow up to two minority type of teammates interview first before any white individual," which they're going a little crazy, if you ask me, on that whole Rooney Rule effect in the NFL and other sports. They're getting too much into the politics. So we touched on that, and then we also touched on what's going on up in New Jersey and his neck of the woods. And it was a great show, really, really good show. But today, guys, we have Jerry from U.S. Freedom Fighters on the show. We're going to talk a little bit about the wildfires. He's been posting on U.S. Freedom Fighters. He basically put a post out on our group page, Patriot Unfiltered Nation, with the fires. What's going on over there, Jerry?
I'm not sure exactly how it got started, Michael, but we had a fire break out midday yesterday, and by the time we all woke up this morning, it had consumed about 30 acres.
Oh, wow.
It could have been a lot worse. We have several great volunteer fire departments around us that kept it at bay yesterday and overnight, and then the Alabama Forestry Commission come in today, and they dumped several bladders of water on it for us, and they really kept a good eye on it.
Wow. Well, that's good. At least they're trying to keep it somewhat, controlled and contained, so it doesn't spread.
Absolutely, and I believe they pretty well got it down to where they don't have to worry about it now. And I rode around through the mountainside here, and I tell you, it was scary for me. I couldn't imagine what some of those folks were feeling because it got a lot closer to their house than it did mine.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of those pictures you posted, even on U.S. Freedom Fighters, the group page there. I mean, that's relatively close, right, to your house.
Absolutely. I mean, it was probably less than half a mile from my house. During the night, I could see embers flying in the sky and flames dancing through the woods. It was that close.
Wow. Just think of all the all the wildlife, and the vegetation, the everything just burnt up. That's terrible.
Absolutely. And, not many people know it, and I only run across it by accident. I was
Right.
doing some research before I bought this property, and on certain maps, I could find a marker, and the way it appeared, this land around me was on the border of the original Cherokee Nation language school.
Oh wow, that's pretty amazing there. Good
Yeah,
history there.
I mean, you can just, I've always been a nature person,
Right.
but and but you can feel the the history here. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you date back to the Cherokee Nation, right? The tribes there in Alabama, and it's pretty strong. They dating back to the 1500s, before America was America, and you know, uh, I mean, I could imagine, we're talking about wildfires and how to prevent them and how to control them, as best as we can possibly can. I mean, can you imagine how they dealt with it back then? I mean, they didn't have the technology that we have today, Jerry.
No, they don't. My hometown had a national forest about 30, 45 minutes away from the house I grew up in. A little backstory: my great uncle was the first forest ranger for Bankhead National Forest here in Alabama when it became a national forest.
Oh
Still,
wow.
still to this day, they have a humongous. I I don't even want to guess how tall it is, but a really tall fire watch tower that they can watch over the whole forest for smoke from. I couldn't imagine. We're so fortunate. Technology is a blessing and a curse, depending upon who wields it and how it's wielded.
Right. Yeah, I mean, just the other day, we had some wildfires. I like to call it wildfires, Jerry, because you know I like to go to that route first. I'd like to say to the listeners that it's caused by nature, but we don't know the root cause. I mean, it could be uh, arsonist. It could be like the kids in the woods messing around. And if it is that, it's really really sad. That if it was caused by humanity, by kids or by people just thinking it's cool to set fires in the woods, that's terrible. We had it, a couple fires up in the North Georgia mountains over near LJ and Helen, some of the most beautiful areas here in North Georgia, and just burnt right down to the ground, Jerry. It was, terrible.
It's heartbreaking. It really is. And
Yeah.
I see it as a twofold problem. You
Yeah.
know, one being the weather, and
Right.
and whether you believe it's man-made or a natural cycle or what, things on Earth are changing.
Oh, sure.
And then there's another side where you know, and I'm not a population control person by any means. I believe we all should have the freedom to be and do what we want. But
Right.
that being said, our cities are spreading out, and more people are wanting to escape the rat race of the city and moving out to the country and attempting to do things that they're not prepared for. And
Oh, sure.
I hate to say it, that's why groups like U.S. Freedom Fighters are great. It can give you some of those skills that you need if you're going to be out like that. You
Right.
can't. And U.S. Freedom Fighters, we try to instill a mindset, plan so you'll be prepared. You know,
Right.
you can't stop every anomaly, but
Right.
the better a plan you have, the you can greatly reduce it and cut down on a lot of this stuff too.
Oh, sure. Sure. I mean, we can only hope to change things to an aspect, in life. You know, we can hope and pray others follow our lead, to make the best type of lifestyle for all of humanity so we don't have to run into problems like this. Because we're talking mainly today about nature, right, Jerry? I mean, nature is beautiful. Let's try not to, let's try to preserve it to the best ability that we can, right?
Absolutely, some of the best memories I know was made in nature, whether it be out fishing, out walking in the woods, just being outdoors. And
Right.
and this is kind of going back. We mentioned Native Americans earlier. This is kind of going back. I look at it, Mother Earth gives us the things to nurture us. We should nurture her and not abuse her. And I hate to say it, in our society, we become a me society, and that focus on me and even leave Mother Nature out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's try to do that. Let's cut the crap that we have today in the society, the politics, the division and stuff, and let's go back to the roots. uh there's not more to say about it, you know what I mean?
Well, I hate to say it, but I think we're going to have to prepare to go back to our roots or find ourselves back needing to know where we come from and not have a clue.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we mentioned weather, and I don't want to get it political about it. You hear about climate control and man-made greenhouse and all this. Here's the simple fact. I'm a man. I see patterns in things.
Yeah.
Everything's a cycle to me. Take our sun for the perfect example. We have periods that are called grand solar minimums, where we have very few sunspots, and we have a period called grand solar maximum, which we have a lot of
Yeah.
sunspots. Now, if people's been watching the news, they'll see where SpaceX set up the satellites the other day, and 40 of the 49 that they sent up got hit by a geomagnetic storm and got knocked out of alignment and are falling if they haven't already failed. Of course, they're expected to burn up in the atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard a little bit of it, and I actually tuned into to your show. You guys mentioned that like a few episodes back. I mean, I think you did. I don't. I think it was on with you and Brad, or I believe AJ was on that as well. You guys touched a little bit on that, just a slight bit, but yeah.
Absolutely, and that's a deep rabbit hole, really. if you want to get into it, you can go back to the 1800s and look at the Carrington effect. It was
Right.
a solar storm that burned up all back then. Of course, they used the telegraph, and it burned up all the telegraph wires when it hit.
Right.
And that's one thing at U.S. Freedom Fighters, we push people. It's easy to get caught up into the politics of things today, but that's not the only thing that could put us in a bad situation. There's so many things, you
Yeah.
know. So, and the reason I brought that up about the sun and cycles and all, there's things that we can't control as humans.
Right.
There's things we can. I
Yeah.
mentioned I mentioned to you, that I watched a show where they were showing methane explosions in Siberia from the permafrost thawing, and where they had lakes bubbling in Alaska from methane from a permafrost frost. Is it
Oh wow.
man? Is it man-made, or is it part of the natural cycle? End result is it doesn't matter. The thing is, we need to come together and make smart decisions about the things we can make decisions about.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's going to require us going back to our roots and uniting with each other and quit being so individualized.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely have to. We have to come together more. Um, this whole distraction of literally what's going on in the country today. It's like every single time you turn on TV, Jerry, it's politics after politics after politics, division after division after division, hatred after hatred. The list goes on. I mean, that's all you see anymore. And I think as a country, like, people, Jerry, people are starting to get upset about it. They're starting to get frustrated. They don't want that anymore. I feel, and I can speak for myself, and I love to speak for other people, but that's not always necessarily true. I think people, I'd like to think that people want to go back, to times where it was more simple. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, human nature is to be afraid of the unknown,
Yeah.
and we've got so far from the basics of living. You know, to me, a step in that direction is what I consider living a minimalist lifestyle.
Yeah.
And people are so worried about how it look to somebody else, or how they'll be viewed, that they can't accept that kind of lifestyle. They've got to keep up with the Joneses, the old saying goes.
Yeah,
And it's
we've become so conditioned right now in life where, uh, I think people want to go back, but they're so comfortable right now in their lifestyle where, they don't really have worries anymore. You guys mainly talk about on your show, and the type of channel that you guys have, um, as a group, as a Facebook group, you know, as a conversation is survival, right?
uh,
Going back to the basics. Jerry, with all due respect, that's great, but I don't think people want to do that. I think they're kind of settled on their lifestyle now where they don't have to worry about it. Like if they run out of, like, say, a can of noodles or a can of soup, like there's a grocery store down the road. They don't have to. It's like having survival training is great, but as a society, we've been so conditioned where we don't have to worry about it anymore. You know what I mean? Even though we're going through some tough times as a nation, people still have that thought like, it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? But in
well,
reality, it's not.
you know, I, I could take that a couple of ways. Everybody, human nature hates change.
Right.
We will endure things that aren't comfortable to keep from having to change a lot of times.
Yeah.
Uh, Honestly, we've become a less motivated nation, to say it politely.
Yeah.
To say it unpolitely, we've become too damn lazy. We'd rather run to the store and do something than do it for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole, like we're talking about, condition, relaxed type of lifestyle, where people they have in their mind, and I see it, Jerry, it's like people will get so overworked and worked up about anything right now that they're dealing with. And, I tell these people, friends, family, colleagues, guys, it's going to be okay. We're going to bounce back. And they're like, you think so? Yeah. I mean, look what we've become as a society. Uh, it's going to be okay. We're going to bounce back. Is it going to be the same as it once was? Most likely, probably not. But in life, Jerry, you either adapt or perish. That's how I see it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, and I may have told you this before. I've done some reading on the some of the shaman from Peru, and
Right.
they made a profound statement in that book. They said, the difference between us and Americans is Americans believe if you make it to the top of the mountain first, you won. We don't. We don't believe we've won until we have everybody that we care about at the top of the mountain with us.
Right. Right. We've always become that competitive uh, uh, state, pretty much, in the mind. Where you know, and I might sound a little bashful after saying this, but as Americans, we want it all, Jerry. And if we can't have it all, then we'll go to the ends of the earth to pretty much get it. You know what I mean?
As long as it don't require us putting in a lot of physical effort.
Yeah, yeah. That pretty much separates us from the rest of the world. As a country, we are the strongest country in the world, the greatest country in the world. But I hate to tell you, we are the most laziest sons of bitches too. I
And, and
mean,
that feeds right into their plans. And that's another reason why what we teach at U.S. Freedom Fighters. Yeah, it's knowledge to have in
yeah,
in case you can't go to the grocery store anymore. But the thing about it, it's a good lifestyle. It's healthy for you. It gets you
sure,
outdoors. It keeps you healthy. You're putting out exercise. You're eating more natural foods. And you know what? When you start doing that, you start breaking away from their race because you're not depending on big pharma anymore.
yeah, yeah. I I tell my listeners that all the time. Try to live a natural lifestyle more than a fabricated lifestyle. And what I mean by fabricated is rely on gut instinct more than the digital instinct. You know, uh,
Absolutely.
stop relying on Google and your phone for knowledge and start reading books. You know what I mean? If you don't have access to a book, go to a library. If you don't have access to a library, then yeah, the third alternative and the last option would probably be the internet, right? But
Right.
you know, let's go back to that old form of learning. It would help.
Absolutely.
It would help. We're talking about wildfires, and in the beginning of the show, we're kind of splitting into knowledge and everything, and I think this ties to a lot of what we need to do as a society. Learn from one another to help one another succeed in life.
Absolutely. I'll just be honest with you. You know, God knows I pray that we never have another event like 9/11 or worse or anything like that.
Right.
But I'm afraid that America's got to a state that something's going to have to slap a lot of us pretty hard and make us shake our head and say, whoa. we've got way off this path. We need to
Yeah.
get back where we should be.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Whether it's religion that slaps us in the face, whether it's taking away some of uh, the privileges that was handed to us, whether it's technology, taking away automobiles, whatever. It's something in the near future that has to, give us that wake up call, that so called slap in the face. You know what I mean?
Ab- Absolutely, and we're gonna have to drop our guard and turn to each other as
Oh,
patriots,
sure.
that as a human, that cares about each other.
Right. Yeah.
That's
I totally agree with you, Jerry.
and that's like I told you in the beginning. Some of my best times are in nature, and that's why.
Hey guys, this show today is brought to you by Priceline.com. Head over to Priceline, guys. They have deals that are better than ever. I mean, some of these deals you're going to see that they haven't had before with rental cars, such as low as $10.99 a day. Guys, $10.99 a day? You can't beat it. For a rental car, especially for the prices in rental cars today. They're through the roof, right? Through this whole COVID hysteria, right? They also have deals with flights, right? And you can also get deals with hotels. Guys, Priceline's been around for years, okay? We love them. We use them on the show. I use it to book hotels. I use it for flights. I use it for just about everything, guys. Head over to Priceline.com. Get the deals, folks, before they expire, because once they expire, that's it. You just have to wait for the next deal, right? Priceline.com, love them. Head over there today.
We push those things so hard at U.S. freedom fighters to get back to the basic stuff. We've got a world so confused that 90% of the people don't even know who they are except for what they're told. I mean, honestly, think realistically. You ask most Americans what they are, who they are, and they're going to tell you their occupation or title or something along that line. That's because they don't
Right.
know who. That's because they don't know who they are. Getting back to those roots and getting back to the old ways is good knowledge, as I said. Who knows if there'll be a day we need it, but I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not.
Sure.
And it gives us time to figure out who we are too, and I think we're going to have to figure out who we are before we can figure out where we fit into humanity as a whole.
Right.
Alrighty, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's podcast with myself and Jerry. Another edition here with Unfiltered with Michael Gardner with the Patriot Angle podcast today with Jerry of U.S. Freedom Fighters podcast. Thank you for tuning in, guys. It was a great show. Remember, guys, you can hear us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Google, Apple. We're just about everywhere now. All over the place. Just Google search us. The Patriot Angle podcast will pop up everywhere, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Patriot Unfiltered Raw. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to today's podcast. We hope you liked it and you learned something from it. Hope to see you on the next one. Anchor Network, a Spotify company.